When I started this YouTube channel, I spent a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to position it and what topics felt the most meaningful. What I realized was I didn't want to focus on the how-tos of a design tool. That content comes and goes. Instead, I wanted to explore topics that reflect how I approach design on a deeper level, creating content that resonates and has a lasting impact. My goal is to share what drives my design process and hopefully inspires you along the way. Design can have a huge impact for our clients. It shapes how people interact with products, influences business outcomes, drives opportunities, and crafts meaningful experiences that uncover value in our projects. But there's a challenge that designers face: effectively communicating the value of design. Hi, I'm Augustine. I'm a product designer who uses empathy to understand the world around me. Have you ever felt like you've designed something that you know will help a product succeed, but you've struggled to get others on board? It's not always easy to explain why design decisions matter, especially when you're working with stakeholders or teams who might not see beyond the visuals. I've been there too. In this video, I'm going to talk about how we can bridge that gap and effectively communicate the value of design, whether you're talking to product owners, business stakeholders, or even your own team. I'll share a few strategies I've learned over the years to make the value of design crystal clear and how you can do the same. We'll dive into some practical tips and the importance of aligning design to business objectives. My goal is to give you the tools to not only show the aesthetic side of design, but communicate the broader impact it has on the entire product or business. Let's face it, design is often misunderstood. Too many people still think of design as just making something, quote unquote, look good, rather than the strategic problem-solving tool that it really is. An uninformed stakeholder might see design as an extra layer, something that's nice to have, or something that's not critical to the success of their product or business. One of the biggest challenges we face as designers is the disconnect between the impact design intends and others' preconceived notion of design's role. When design is boiled down to just being about aesthetics, the deeper value gets lost. You might find yourself in a situation where you're presenting a well thought out design solution, but instead of focusing on the impact, the conversation gets derailed by comments like, "Can we make that button a different color?" This disconnect doesn't just affect your mood or how you feel about your work. It can have real impact to the success of the product itself. When stakeholders don't fully understand the value of design, they might cut corners or deprioritize key design tasks, cutting out key design features from a product, or even worse, remove design resources from the product in favor of development, which ultimately leads to compromised user experiences. Not to mention missing opportunities. I remember working on a project where we were designing a feature that, in my mind, was going to dramatically improve the user journey. But every time that I brought it up in meetings, there were questions more about the cost and the time required than the actual benefit that it would bring. I would hear questions like, "Are we complicating this? How can we make this simpler? This doesn't fit into our value prop." The challenge was that I hadn't yet figured out how to communicate the value of those features in terms that business could understand. Things like user retention, brand equity, and cost savings down the line weren't yet part of my vernacular. And because I hadn't framed the value properly, it became harder to get the necessary buy-in. And if you've been in a similar situation, you're not alone. It's a common pain point in our field. We know design is critical, but explaining why it's critical, especially in a language that resonates with stakeholders, can be a struggle. So, how do we overcome this challenge? How do we communicate the value of design in a way that resonates with both creative teams and business stakeholders? Let's dive into some strategies that have helped me bridge this gap and get others to see design not just as something visual, but as a key driver of business success. One of the key ways to effectively communicate the value of design is to frame it in terms the business side understands. That sounds easy, but it's not. As designers, we often think about things like usability, user experience, and aesthetic appeal. But for stakeholders, especially those in leadership positions, the priority is return on investment, customer retention, and operational efficiency. When you can tie your design decisions to business outcomes, you instantly make them more relevant. Instead of saying something like, "This design will improve the user experience," you can say, "This design will reduce the time it takes for users to complete a task by 30%, which can lead to fewer support tickets and increased satisfaction." Now, that's something that will grab their attention. Let's say you're redesigning a checkout flow for an e-commerce site. As designers, we're thinking about things like ease of use, reducing friction, and creating a seamless experience. But from a business perspective, what they care about is reducing cart abandonment rates, increasing conversion rates, and ultimately boosting sales. So, if you present your design by saying, "This new checkout flow could increase conversion rates by 5%, you've now connected design directly to the bottom line. I once worked on a project where we were tasked with improving the navigation for a product dashboard. Instead of just focusing on the design elements, I aligned our approach with the company's business goals. I framed the design improvements in terms of how they would reduce the time it takes users to find key features, which would lead to increased engagement and retention. By speaking their language, I was able to get buy-in much more quickly. To do this effectively, it helps to know the key performance indicators, KPIs, that your stakeholders care about. Whether it's increasing user acquisition, improving retention, or reducing churn. Being aware of these goals allows you to position your design work as part of the solution. It's about showing that design isn't just something that makes things quote-unquote look nice. It's a tool for achieving business success. As part of your discovery, coax early discussions with the business team. Ask questions like, "What are the key goals for this quarter?" Or, "What metrics are we trying to improve with this project?" The more you understand the business side, the better you can frame your design work in a way that supports those goals. Humans are wired for stories. People naturally connect with narratives. They're easier to understand. They're more memorable and way more engaging than raw data or technical jargon. When it comes to communicating the value of design, storytelling is one of the most effective tools we have. Instead of just presenting a design solution as a collection of components or screens, you can use storytelling to show how it impacts users' lives. For example, instead of saying, "We made a button bigger," tell a story of a user who was struggling to find the call to action and how your design helped them complete the task more easily. That kind of story is relatable and brings your design decisions to life. Whenever I present design work, I try to frame it in the context of a user's journey. I ask myself, how can I show the before and after of this design decision? What problem is the user experiencing right now? And how will this design improve that experience? Telling that story creates an emotional connection that helps stakeholders understand the real-world impact of your design. For example, I was working on a dashboard redesign of a CRM platform that was struggling with its user experience. Rather than just showing the new layout and saying, "Look, this is a lot better than your current user experience. This is going to make everything better." Instead, I walked them through a typical user journey. I illustrated how a user might feel overwhelmed with the current design, struggling to find key features, and how frustrating that could be. Then, I showed them our redesign, simplified navigation, making it easier for the user to complete tasks efficiently. This story help the team visualize the difference and immediately make the value of the redesign more tangible. But storytelling isn't just about words. Visuals play a huge role too. When you show a prototype or a service blueprint, you're giving stakeholders something to interact with, something concrete they can relate to. Visuals help transform abstract concepts into something real, something that can be seen. Engage your stakeholders by giving them tools to collaborate and feel invested in the project. Tools like Miro and Figma allow you to engage your business audience in valuable ways. Walking through prototypes allow you to show how users interact with it. When they can see the design in motion, it makes it easier to understand the value. It's the difference between saying, this will improve the user experience, and actually showing them how the user experience improves. You can also tie visuals directly to business metrics. For example, I've used simple graphs to show how a design decision might reduce customer support requests, decrease drop-off rates, or increase engagement. When you pair storytelling with concrete visuals and data, you create a much clearer picture of the value your design brings. So, now that we've covered the storytelling and the visualization that can make the value of design more relatable and engaging, let's move on to some practical tips that you can use to communicate the value clearly and effectively through different types of stakeholders. Number 1, avoid design jargon and keep your explanations simple. Break down your design decisions into clear, digestible points. Use plain language and avoid technical terms that confuse non-designers. For example, instead of saying we adjusted the typography in the grid system, you can say we reorganized the layout to make it easier for users to navigate. Number 2, show, don't tell. Use collaborative tools and interactive prototypes to demonstrate your value. Present interactive prototypes or mock-ups to make your ideas tangible. Engage stakeholders through tools like Miro and FigJam. Build clickable prototypes that showcase improved user flows rather than just describing the change. Number 3, explain the why behind your design decisions. Always provide reasoning for your design choices. Tie the why back to user needs and business objectives. For example, we simplified the page layout to reduce cognitive load, helping users complete tasks faster. Number 4, tailor your communication to the audience. I can't tell you how important this is. Adjusting your message based on who you're presenting to, let's say a product owner, engineers, marketing. Focus on what matters most to each of those groups. Timelines, technical feasibility, branding, or the user experience. For example, talking about brand consistency with the marketing team makes a lot of sense, but it might not with your engineering teams. Instead, with them, you would discuss feature impact and development efficiency. Number 5, tie design to business metrics. Link your design decisions to measurable outcomes that impact the business. Highlight improvements in user engagement, conversion rates, or operational efficiency. For example, this new layout could increase conversions by 5% by reducing friction during the checkout process. Number 6, use data to back up your decisions. Support your design proposals with data, user research, A/B testing, and analytics. Show how past design change has led to measurable improvements. This builds trust with your audience and lets them know that you're informed. For example, you might say something like, after redesigning this form, we saw a 15% increase in user signups. So to start closing us out, we've covered a lot of ground in this video. From understanding the challenges in communicating design's value, to framing it in business terms, using storytelling and visualization, and building strong collaboration with cross-functional teams. The key takeaway here is that design is more than just making things look good. It's about solving real problems, driving business results, and creating experiences that resonate with users. But here's the thing, and this is something I tell my team all the time. Even the best solutions, even the best designs, don't have any impact if you can't effectively communicate their value. All that hard work, pixel perfect designs, everything is just a figment of your imagination if you can't effectively persuade your team to understand its value. That's why it's so important to develop your communication skills as a designer. Whether it's simplifying your language, showing instead of telling, or tailoring your message to different audiences, every bit of effort you put into communication can make a huge difference. The more you practice these strategies, explaining why behind your decisions, aligning to business goals, and using data to support your arguments, the more you'll start to see positive effects. Not only will you get more buy-in from stakeholders, you will elevate the role of design within your organization. I've personally seen how improving communication can transform the way design is perceived. When I started focusing more on speaking the language of business and showing the real-world impact of design, conversations changed. It wasn't just about colors and layout. It was about solving problems. Now, I'd love to hear from you. How do you communicate the value of your design work? What challenges have you faced, and what tips or strategies have helped you along the way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. Remember, as designers, we have the unique ability to not just create beautiful experiences, but truly impact the way that people interact with product and business. By learning how to effectively communicate that value, we can make sure our work is seen, understood, and appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'm Augustine, and I'll see you in the next one.